Good afternoon, everyone. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and welcome to Artists of Color. It's an art and cultural program that features artists and artistic organizations across the Boston area, especially in communities of color, because that's my mission. And today I have an amazing, I have to say, amazing artist, director, writer. He has so many mediums, I couldn't begin. And my guest today is Daniel Callahan. Daniel, good afternoon and welcome to Artists of Color.
Afternoon. Happy to be here.
It's good to see you. And we're doing this again.
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
it has. A
It
lot has
has been a
happened
minute. Oh,
since the last
so
time we
much has happened.
spoke.
It's funny because I remember when I first met you.
Hmm.
Yeah, when Valerie Stevens was doing, well, I know when Catherine was doing the prelude to BAMS,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when we first met. I still
Wow.
have the pictures of
Catherine.
you. Yeah, so a lot has happened.
Yeah.
A lot has happened. But I was going over your website
Hmm.
yesterday and the day before, and I say to myself, there was so much in there. And I had no idea there was so many things that you had done,
Hmm.
so many, and how you got to be where you are, you know? So, what I want to ask you to begin with is how did you become an artist? And I mean an artist in the sense of you have so many mediums and you've got so many talents within your artistic repertoire of things. How did you actually get started? What made you want to be an artist?
Um, I think what made me want to be an artist was there's several things. The first was as a shy kid, uh, generally very observant, but didn't really like to talk a lot. I found art was a way for me to communicate with my surroundings that I could really understand. So it was a way for me to observe. It was a way for me to engage with my surroundings in a way that was comfortable for me. So I think that was really important. Another thing, another key influencer, I'd say, would be my father. Growing up, I remember he did a drawing for each of us of Batman, and he was an incredible draftsman. And when I saw these drawings, I was just like, wow, I want to learn how to do that. And my dad was such a large influence on me, so that's really what got me into drawing. And drawing was like my sort of first art form, I guess. And through that process, I've realized that wow, through drawing, anything in my head, I can actually create in the physical world through drawing. Like if I have an idea for a character, I can literally translate that through a pencil and paper and actually bring that into physical existence. And that to me was just amazing. And that's really kind of been my trajectory as an artist ever since. It's just when I get ideas, how do I then put those into physical existence? And that's, I think, why my mediums are always kind of in flux, is because that doesn't matter to me as much. Obviously, the technical skill involved is like really important to learn and sort of respecting the craft of it. But in terms of the idea, it's wherever the idea takes me. So if that's film, wonderful, we use film. If that's people's actual faces and there's paint, we'll do that. Or, so I'm kind of just following the inspiration and the moment, and that's sort of taking me to these different forms. So I think that's why I do a lot of different stuff.
Wow. You, I'm going to, we're going to go right in
All right.
to how you started masking. And we're going to we're going to talk about that while we're rolling the film on masking.
Okay.
That way you can give the audience an idea of what masking is and what the film is about. So I think that's what we're going to do because that is quite interesting. I got to listen to it and watch it a couple of times. And then I got to see little clips of what you were doing. And it was like, oh my goodness, you know.
I started masking in California, and we would hold these events where we wanted to have a ball. We wanted to do sort of like the Victorian thing, but we didn't want people to come with masks on. We wanted people to show their faces instead of hide their faces, and so we decided just to paint on our faces, and that would be our mask. We started to realize that this is something that's universal, that's been practiced by humans for as long as humans have been humans. You know, they say the first paintings weren't on the walls of caves, but were on ourselves. And so we were tapping into this really ancient, powerful practice. And when I left California and I went back to the East Coast, I really was missing that culture and that community and that powerful art form. So I decided to just start doing it here. I did a project called Month of the Mask where I masked myself every day for a month. And that was just like a totally revelatory experience for me. And I learned so much, not only about myself, but about my world and my relationship to my world and kind of my calling in a way. So the next step was to try to bring this artwork to other people since it had been so profound for me. And so that was the Year of the Mask project where I used it as a platform to tell people stories. And now with this masquerade ball, it's almost like a culmination of now bringing this to my entire community.
This is the kind of space that I think all of us strive to create. A space where people can be themselves, where every culture is celebrated, not only for what makes us similar, but also for what makes us different.
I was quite interested. I liked when you talked about, you started with masking yourself and what you saw. You saw like the different parts of you. What you talked about the history of masking. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking, you know, the motherland. Africans have been masking for centuries, eons. You know, that was what the culture was. When you started study, did you do research on masking?
Yeah, I mean, so I was introduced to just masking through that masquerade ball in California. And it wasn't until I saw the power of that that I realized, wow, like I wanted to know like why this was so powerful. And that's when I actually really started to do the research. So it wasn't like the research led me to this practice. It was more just like this practice found me. And then once I saw it, I was really interested. And so I started doing research. Um, and you know, like I say in in that short piece, this is a human thing. Humans have been doing this all throughout the world, but obviously all humans originate, well, not obviously, but scientifically we've started to prove that humans, you know,
That's
came
right.
from Africa, right? Like
There
Africa
you go.
is the origin. And so all these traditions lead us back to Africa. And you know, the culture, every group of people have their different sort of slant on it. And my idea was never to try to copy what someone else was doing, but it's always been my fascination to learn from them and to understand why they do the things they do. And that naturally has an effect on the work that I create. So, I try to appreciate instead of appropriate, and I try to learn um, and expand my own practice through other people's practices.
We have a picture up. Tell us about this. Is this you? I think
Yeah,
this is
that's me.
you.
That's me. That's me actually on the set of the film
I thought
that
so.
Come On In. This was actually from I guess they call it a sizzle reel or just a promotional film for the film. And I wanted to include this image because uh, what a lot of people see from my work is like the beautiful imagery, and that's the imagery where people's inner beauty is coming out through colors and shape and line, and I love that. But the masking journey for me was also about understanding the darker sides of myself
Yes.
and working through some of the pain and trauma that I had felt, dealt with, or not dealt with
Not dealt with.
up to that point. And so the film is really about that other side. It's about the work that we need to do internally to be able to present ourselves in a way, and discovering all those things inside that maybe you're not as happy about or proud of. And so there is sort of a darker element to this as well, which is equally important. And so that's kind of what the film touches on. There's a lot of issues of mental health, of
Mhm.
healing, of trauma. And so that side of that is equally important.
Yes, it is. I remember, and we will get to that part. I remember when I watched the film, when the film was previewed
Yeah.
at the Roxbury, I said, and as I watched it, and then I rewatched it, and I said, yeah, a lot of pain,
Mm,
a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of mental health, a lot of going through things and coming out on the other side,
mm.
and I said, wow. And then I said, my goodness, he's an amazing filmmaker. I said, the artist isn't actually an amazing filmmaker. You did a fabulous job with that.
Thank
Did
you.
you do a lot of when you started the film? Did you know that you wanted to do this film?
Yes. Uh, so my initial, so first of all, thank you. I definitely appreciate that.
Oh,
And when the first idea for this film was actually for it not to be a actual film, but actually to be a sort of hybrid theatrical cinematic performance piece,
oh, okay.
where there would be live acted elements, and then there'd be cinematic elements, and there'd be all sorts of stuff. But in terms of I was talking about before, in terms of respecting the craft, I knew that before I even went into film, I really need to study it. And so I went to Emerson, I went to their graduate program for film and video, and studied it for 3 years. And so that film was a culmination of that study. Um, so throughout the process, I knew that I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to incorporate the masking, because that was sort of my story that I could tell. That was something that was unique to me that I could bring to the world. And through Emerson and a bunch of other experiences, I learned about filmmaking and screenplays, and how to translate themes and ideas and emotions into audio visual presentation, where someone could also, if not feel those feelings, exact same feelings, at least be brought into a space where they can talk about those and feel those themes. So that was kind of the goal. And yeah, I mean, I thought it came out. I thought I was able to express what I had. In terms of there's always so much more to learn. Filmmaking is such a complex um, undertaking, and everything I think can be improved always. And
Oh,
so
yes.
I'm definitely still a student of film. I don't think film is something that you can really master in 3 years. But I thought
I
what I was able
agree.
to do was take my initial vision and really bring it through this medium in a way that people could relate to.
Hmm. Absolutely. How did you find your cast for the film? I mean, you were there front and center.
Yeah.
There were other people. There were other people like, who is it? Marshall Hughes, whom I know.
Marshall, yes.
Yes, he's very good.
Oh,
He's
he's
very
amazing.
good, isn't he?
Yeah, I really want to like, I want to make more work for him because I think he's a great actor.
Yeah, he
Um,
is.
yeah, yeah, and just has, from his theater background, he really knows how to exhibit a role. I kind of wish I wish he made even more of a cameo in the film, but we'll maybe do more projects with him. But yeah, in terms of how I found the cast, um, often for anything that I do, it's usually around the community that I built. So, Marshall was part of that community.
Mm-hmm.
I think I met Marshall through Ash Gordon. I think so.
Oh, okay.
Who is with Castle of Our Skins, and Marshall was, gave them access when he was at RCC
At
to
RCC, yes, he
have one of their
did.
first performances, right? So Marshall's been putting in support to the artist community for forever.
A long time. A
Yeah.
very long time.
And so that was Marshall, but other folks, I think another person who was really important to this film in a sort of tangential way was Lisa Simmons with the Roxbury International Film Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Because two of the female leads in the film I found through the Roxbury International Film Festival.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
So that was a really important thing. So like, just a cobbling of many different networks. I put out a casting call, so I did see a lot of folks cold that I didn't know.
Okay.
One of which ended up being phenomenal actor, ended up being the friend of the lead. His name is Wendell in the film, and his name is Abner. His real name is Abner, but he's an excellent actor. Yeah, just found him through putting the call out.
Okay. Okay. Do you intend to do another?
Yes. Well, so yes, in terms of another film, for sure. I'm actually working on another documentary. So it's actually not a feature film. It's a documentary.
Okay.
And that documentary is on the dual pandemics of COVID-19 and structural racism and their effects on Black and Brown.
Oh, amazing.
Really kind of blossomed from my need to reach out to my community during the pandemic when we were all just kind of stuck at home. But during the beginning, right, when we're all just kind of stuck at home wondering like what is going on.
Yes.
And just,
I remember the last time I rode a bus. I had gone, oh yes, I had gone out to Darrell's.
Okay.
On the 15th of March. I had taken the bus down there because I'm an avid bus rider. Wherever I go, I'm on the bus. But I got down there and did not realize that the city was about to shut down. So I took the bus down. I took the bus back. Then I heard the news. It's like the pandemic had already been here for a couple of months, but nobody was saying anything about it. And then all of a sudden in March, we have a pandemic and the city is shutting down. The country is shutting down. I said, what? I said, okay. And that was the last time I rode a bus, and I have not been on a bus since. Anywhere I go, I have to take a Lyft. It's like Lyft is getting to be a little bit expensive.
Yeah, that is expensive travel.
Yes. There are some things I'm able to do by another form of transportation that I have, but basically, if I'm going really someplace far, I have to take a Lyft, and that's money, But now they're claiming they're going to open up and everybody can go out and not wear a mask. And I say, yeah, okay, you go right ahead. I'm not doing it. Daniel, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have every right to be cautious.
Yes.
If there's one thing that this thing has taught us is that, you know, we really have to practice caution in moving through, because you know we had that spike. You know, when things first started, we were like, oh, we turned the
Yes.
corner, everyone laxed up, and then we had that spike, and
And they
so
had that spike. And I said, okay, people,
yeah,
you know, like a few days ago, they said we were down to zero at everything. And then the day before yesterday, they said we had 219 new cases and 19 deaths.
Mm.
So I have my theory on why that's happening. We'll talk about that another time. I really do. But that is going to be that's going to be a fantastic, very interesting documentary. Have you already started? You've started working on it, correctly?
Oh yeah, I've been working on it really from the beginning. Well,
Okay.
roughly the beginning of the pandemic. I would say maybe like a month into it, a month and a half
Okay.
into it. Well, when I say the pandemic, when we shut down.
When we shut down. There
Right.
you go.
So yeah, and it started off with a bunch of just Zoom calls with people that
Yes.
I started doing just again to reach out. I wasn't even recording them. I just wanted to figure out what everyone was feeling. And then these discussions were so rich that I was like, wow, I really need to start recording them, really just to remember what we went through, because I knew
Went
we were
through.
going through something historic, right? So just for reciprocity's sake. But then as I started to record these, you know, George Floyd happened, and
Oh, yeah.
Taylor,
Breonna Taylor happened.
and like, you know, there was so much going on despite, or maybe even because of this COVID pandemic,
Pandemic.
and all these things are intertwined. I was just like, this is really important. Like, this is an important story. I need to do the best I can to document this, because you know a lot of stuff is going on. So we had this reckoning, this racial reckoning in the middle of a pandemic, which was its own reckoning in terms of our health system, but also in terms of the inequalities in our health
Is
system.
our system.
So
Yep.
like all this stuff was just coming together, and I was like, wow, what could happen is we could get to the point where we are now, where people feel like we're on the end of this thing, and we can go right back to how things used to be.
Thank you.
Very, very,
Absolutely.
you know, like, because everyone's excited to go back. Everyone wants to go back. And it's like, no, we really can't go back. We need to go forward into
It's
something good.
not the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not the time.
So all that stuff was just like, okay, I need to do my part. And that really came from that. So I'm definitely looking forward to we technically finished production in April. But it
Oh,
was always so difficult to say, when do I stop? Because it's just like it continues
there's
to,
always something new.
yeah, you know, like
There's always something
always,
new.
always. So yeah, we technically wrapped in April, and we're really trying to start the post-production process, which is like, you know, getting all that stuff together, editing it, really creating a story around it. Or uncovering, I should say, uncovering the story that we want to tell. So that's in the works.
Okay. Will masking be part of that?
No, because only because I have been so into masking that it's really important for me to step out of it and do
Okay.
something else that I feel is just as important. And then hopefully that experience refreshes. It has refreshed my sort of my need to get back into masking. And so what I am doing, I'm doing an artist residency right now at Artisans
Yeah.
Asylum, their new campus in Brighton. And
Oh, it's in Brighton. Okay.
yeah, they're moving from Somerville to Brighton. And so I get to play around in their space before they move in.
Oh, nice.
So
Very
I'm
nice.
working on a somewhat follow-up of Come On In, that first idea of it being a sort of theatrical and cinematic experience. I'm really starting to play around with that. So
Good.
just doing this, it's sort of in the laboratory stage of just like, what could we possibly do? So that's what the residency's around. So I'll be hoping to share that, but that definitely won't involve masking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, in a couple of minutes, we're going to bring up masking. I mean, we're going to bring him up, come on in. And
Oh, okay.
I really want to really talk a lot more about that and how masking, you know, intertwined with that. Because
Sure.
it was amazing, because you didn't see a lot of masking until it got closer to the end part,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it was like, and when I first saw it, I said, where did it come from? I'm like, there's a man. What? Okay. And I had always been wondering through the entire film, where was it? When was it coming in? Where was it going to make an appearance? And then when it did, I was like excited, shocked, like, okay, really, here we are. You know, yes. Well, we are going to watch the film, a little clip of that, and then we're going to talk more about it, because I was amazed. I thought it was fabulous.
Thank you. And I think this clip, to that point, this clip has no masking involved.
No, it doesn't. But when we come back, I want to, from the
Absolutely.
film, I want to talk a lot about that.
Absolutely.
So I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be talking to you about.
We'd like to purchase your current series, Mr. Nahalik. We're prepared to go above and beyond the current bid.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've had a very long day. I'm pretty sure I'm losing my mind. Or I'm lost in it. None of you are real. I can't snap out of it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. When I first saw it, because that was at the very beginning of the film, and it was like, is he going to commit suicide? What is he getting?
Not funny at all.
What is he getting ready to do?
Yeah.
But then as you went along, and then well, hopefully people have seen this film already.
Maybe not. You may not want to spoil it for folks.
Yeah, that's true. I may not want to do that, but the loss part, the grieving part, you know, and that's what I want to ask you. Did the film come from something that you had already experienced?
So, I mean,
parts of it anyway.
Yes and no. So, you talked earlier about how you saw like the pain kind of.
Yes.
And it is important to know that, like, you know, when I came back here to Boston, I was not in a good place at all. You know, I was very much in a low place. I had a lot of grieving that I hadn't done that I needed to do, and you know, had lost loved ones, some violently, you know, left my community in California, moved back to Boston. I had left Boston to really get out of the city, and here I was coming back. I didn't know where I was professionally, what I was going to do next. It was a time of a lot of uncertainty, fear, doubt, and sadness. And so, masking in the context of here in Boston really was my saving grace and part of what got me out of that really dark place. And so, you know, it became really important to me. Again, folks may see the images and see the beauty of it. I hopefully see the beauty in that, the beauty of people that I see. And that's so important, but you have to go, I had to go through a lot of pain to get there. And
Mm,
that pain is while it was not a good time at all, it was, there's something about pain and suffering that is necessary. Certainly there are parts of pain and suffering that are unnecessary that we really need to rid ourselves of,
of
but
yes.
there is a need for it. There's a need for everything in this universe, and I think that, you know, the suffering that we go through, there is something in there. It changes us. It allows us to be more empathetic to other people who may be suffering, and it gives a whole. It's just, you know, it's a whole richness. You know, you can't paint and never use the blacks. You can't, you know, paint and just use white. You have to use the whole spectrum of, you know, of possibility. And I think the same thing is true with any art form. You really, in order for you to really address the human condition, you have to talk about pain and suffering. And so, you know, that is very much about this film. What was the sort of, what were the thematic things, if not specifically, you know, like I wasn't ever hallucinating. I didn't, you know, like none of that stuff like happened to me personally. But
Okay.
in my mind, it felt like that,
That.
you know, like where you feel trapped, you feel like you're caught in these loops. And that is a lot about what depression and mental illness
Mental
is,
illness is.
you know,
Yes.
like, and you don't have to be clinically diagnosed with, you know, a condition to not be mentally well. And I think that's a big thing too, is a lot of us who are very functional, who are, you know, doing everything, putting up great appearances, but are
Yeah,
not mentally
yeah,
well, you know, and
right.
we're suffering because of that. And so, um, you know, that's what this piece was about. If I could dramatize what's happening in my head and bring it out into a reality that a character is actually experiencing, what would that look like? And that was kind of the impetus of the film.
Okay. Yes. When you, I want to go back because we're talking about the film, and I do want to go back to casting, casting for the film. You said you did you did a lot of casting within the community.
Yeah.
Did you find when you were casting for the film, were there really specific types of things you were looking for within a cast person to cast for the film?
Yeah. And I think that uh I was looking for certain characteristics and certain, you know, because I was playing the lead, I had to find people who made would make me feel how I would want the lead character to feel.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's everything from like, do I feel support from this person? Because this person has to be a supportive person in the lead's life. Do I feel, you know, kinship with this person? Um, you know, for the mother character, you know, there's very practical things like, do I look like I could be this woman's child?
Person's child.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
But I felt that.
hmm,
I felt that when I saw her,
hmm,
that I could see that. I could really see that. I said, okay, yeah, she could definitely be his mother. I
yeah,
could see it.
yeah,
It was like surprising. I said, at first, when I first saw it, I said to me, not knowing, and I'm not knowing, is what is she? Is she his mother?
hmm,
Really, it was quite interesting because I watched the different roles that the people that the cast was playing, and
hmm,
I kind of like delved into those roles just to see. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, part of that is, I think, the work that I did in terms of casting, but I think also part of that, we have to recognize just incredible talent of the actors, who were part of the film, and they really did due diligence to really get into their roles, um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, really like do the homework, and you know, in terms of the that character, she had a lot of. Her name is Andrea. She's part of the SAG, here in Boston, the Boston chapter of SAG. She's actually the president.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and she's an amazing. I mean, she has so much theater and television and film experience, that I have to give her the credit in terms of
She
her inhabiting that role. Like
she
as
was
much as I,
perfect.
yeah, as much as you just have to be lucky. You have to get lucky, and you have to
Yeah, you do.
know it when you see it. It's like when you see talent like that, if you can identify it and hopefully rope them in,
Yeah.
then you've done your
Yes.
job. Um, because there's no way I could teach that to her. You know,
Oh, definitely not.
yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I could feel it.
Hmm.
I could feel it when she was playing it. It's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm wanting to know what's the future. What's Daniel Callahan's future as an artist? Where are you going, and how are you going to get there?
So part of what makes it exciting is, that it's ever evolving, and that I never really know for sure.
Okay.
But part of my vision for myself is that, I want to take my work internationally,
Mm.
and I do want to straddle the different industries, which are starting to fuse more and more, you know, um, these days,
Mm.
from the fine arts world to the film world. Folks like, um, Steve McQueen, and Melvin Van Peebles, and
Mm-hmm.
even Barry Jenkins, and all these folks who have been able to move in these different worlds. Um,
True.
are folks that I really look up to. Um,
I can understand that.
Donald Glover, folks who've just been able to do many different things.
Many different things. Yes.
Um, and I think it's becoming more normal. I think it's becoming less of like a exception and more of like, yeah, you do want to be someone who can make music and also make film and also act and also
Act.
write.
You
Um,
have to have many different hats, more or
yeah,
less,
absolutely,
because
absolutely.
that way you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, there are folks who do too much, because maybe they're doing something, but they haven't really put the time in, to really do it well.
Well,
But I don't think that artists should ever be limited to one medium, one
medium.
practice. Like, art doesn't work that way, like it doesn't come in neatly in packages. My work is always stretching me. It's always pushing me against my insecurities, against my vulnerabilities,
I
against
can imagine.
like against,
Mm.
yeah, against my readiness. And so as long as it continues to do that, I'm good with wherever it takes me. But yeah, the goal is to expand, regionally, nationally, internationally, and to move into all these different industries.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I just, I'm just excited about the work. I am just excited about the work, and to see you doing what you're doing, and moving forward. I am looking forward to seeing that documentary. I really be interested, you know, because
Yeah,
there's so many aspects of it
yeah,
that you mentioned, so many aspects.
yeah. I have to also thank you. Uh, I've gotten the beauty of me moving back to Boston is I've gotten so much support from my community, which is like amazing. and not something I expected moving back. In fact, it was something that I was worried about moving back, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
But just the folks who have reached out and you know, promoted and elevated and provided platforms for me to share my work.
There you go.
You know, you being one of the main people. You know, we've talked a lot. We talked several times,
Yes.
and each time has been rich. So I definitely appreciate you and the work that you're doing
Thank you.
here.
That's my mission.
Yeah.
That is my mission. When I started this television show 14 years ago, I didn't expect, I first of all didn't expect to last 14 years.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Hmm.
but with a lot of encouragement from those that have come before me and have been doing it for many years, and people telling me, you know, this is an attachment to your writing. Because before I started doing this, I still have an art and cultural news publication, and the mission is the same. It's
Hmm.
the voices of people of color and and the vision and their voices. Because as I've always been told, and I agree with that, you, you know, our stories can't be told by others.
Hmm.
Our voice is not their voice.
Hmm.
And we have to tell our stories. And we need to tell it so that those that are coming after us know the truth.
Hmm.
And the truth can only come from us. You know, the truth can only come from us. I got to look it up. I'm going to be a bad girl because I'm going to look it up because I want to ask you about this. Yeah, it was, I loved it. There was, okay, you said painting is how one does art. Masking is how one becomes it. Is that your statement?
Yeah.
Explain that.
Sure. I mean, you know, painting painting is something we do. You know, masking is something that you become. So when you mask, when you either mask yourself or you mask someone else or someone else masks you, whatever, however you're
Yeah.
involved in it, um, there's a change. There's a physical change to an actual body, to an actual person. And you know, that transformation is really where the power comes. Um, and you know, this harkens back to that idea of masking originating in on the continent. You know, when you look at African masking traditions, and that's like
Yes.
the physical masks, you know, and the painting.
And the painting.
It's all about like uh, pushing your sense of who you are, your identity, and expanding that. You know, you're more than just Elaine. You know, there's so much else that's part of you, and there's no real line between you and your environment. You know, like you are from this earth. You are an earthling. You are literally a product of the earth, and so you're connected to that, and you're connected to all things. And expanding the notion of who I is all about sort of what the mask does. And so, you know, I say that to say that, and now I've even lost track of what I was actually originally going to say. But in terms of the question that you asked, which was, remind me again the question you asked.
When the question I just asked
Yeah.
about painting and artists.
Thank you. Yes.
There
Okay.
you go.
In terms of when you paint something, especially and even when you draw something, you are translating an image or an idea into a physical reality.
Okay.
It's sort of this act of translation. But when you're masking somebody, you're not just painting a picture on their face. You are engaging their actual features and their actual face and their actual likeness and entity in the work. And
Yeah.
in order for you to experience that work, you have to encounter another human being. You have to look at someone in their face, in their eyes. There has to be that interaction. So there's that sort of communion that sense of presence, that is different. You know, with a painting, you look at the painting, it's an object, you know, but with
Right.
masking, it's a person. So
Person.
there's so much more embodiment of the art, and so that's what kind of makes it alive. You know, you create living. I through masking, I collaborate with people to create living works of art,
Yes.
and so in that way, it's becoming, it's being more than it is doing.
So you answered my next question already, because it was going to be, when you is there a design for masking? But then you answer that, because it's your face to face, eye to eye with a human, with another human being. You know, they see you and you see them, and
Yep.
that's how the masking comes about. Because I wanted to know, did you have drawings for the maskings that you do on people? But then
Yeah.
you don't.
No, I mean the only time that I come in with ideas is when I'm masking myself.
Oh,
And
all right.
that's only when I mask myself, I look at myself in the mirror for
Right.
very long periods of time, and I'm just thinking, and I'm asking myself the questions I ask people when I mask them, you know, like, where are you at right now? How are you feeling? What are you struggling with? What are you thinking about? Um, you know, what brings you joy? Like these questions, and I'm answering them. And as I'm looking at myself, I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm asking someone else. I'm looking at them as I'm talking with them. And then I
Oh,
just start seeing shapes appear. And so
okay.
when I'm masking myself, I will do that. I will look in the mirror. I will start to see shapes and colors, and then I'll start drafting them. And sometimes I'll draft several. And then later on, I may be like, well, you know, I'm going to try to do this draft that I came up with. So that's a little different. When I'm masking other people, no, there's no. I have a sort of my own rule that I put upon myself. I don't come in with any plans.
Any preset, yeah,
Yeah, because I, like you said, I want it to be a reaction to the person and not some sort of idea that I had.
that you've already come
That
with. How has masking been greeted within the community?
uh, great, with open arms and with a lot of interest, and with a lot of nuance that, I don't often see in other places. Like people seem to just get it. Like people seem to just, whether or not they're able to articulate and explain everything,
Right.
they can feel it, and they I guess it's kind of like sort of the real recognize real thing, where there's just like, yeah, I see what you're doing, you know, and I respect it. Um, Even if I'm not even able to talk about it, I feel it, you know, and that's like the utmost compliment I think you can give an artist, or at least me, is that, like, you know, I may not know, I may not be able to talk about theoretically what you're doing, but it does something to me, and I feel it, and I respect it. Um,
Understand.
you know, so that's been really a blessing.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So where are you? So what you're doing a program now, and you've got this space, and
Hmm.
Emerson.
This is Artist Asylum.
Oh, this is Artist Asylum.
Artisans Asylum, sorry,
Okay.
Artisans Asylum. Yeah.
And
So
they're moving into Brighton.
they're moving into Brighton. So I have that residency basically until uh, mid-June. Um,
Mhm.
and then, in terms of Emerson, you know, I'm technically an adjunct faculty there.
Oh
Uh,
my, excuse me.
well, I mean, that just means
Fantastic.
I taught there at one point, and I'm
Yes.
not teaching there right now. But you know,
Okay.
that may change.
That's
Um,
true. Never know.
and I'm also teaching at the Institute of Contemporary Art. I teach film and video for teens,
Oh,
at the program.
fabulous.
Yeah. They have a program called Fast Forward that, engages teens in you know, filmmaking. You know, we've been online for during this pandemic, but we've still been able to continue that program. So really, really excited about that.
Wow. You have done a lot. I am excited. I love the film.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait for the documentary. We must do this again. I want to know, where are you going to be doing any exhibits in the near future?
So this, at
That's
the
not
end
what I
of my
wanted to ask. I
residency,
lost my train of thought too.
it's all good. It's already been a long day. It's just
It sure has.
um I will be doing something at the end of my residency, and that will be for a very small audience, unfortunately, because of the situation we're in.
Right.
However, we will be hopefully recording that through film and video. So I will have that to share. I should also say, I was remiss to say this before, I also am in my first year as the new president of the Roxbury Cultural District.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Totally don't want to leave that off the table.
No. How
which
has that been going?
It's been going well. It's been a lot of work.
bet.
It really has sort of turned into a full-time thing. Which which is just, it's necessary. It's what's needed for that right now. But
Are they still looking for board members? You
Yes.
mentioned that to me a year ago.
We are still looking for board members. We are specifically looking for a new treasurer. So anyone who has, a background in finance, financial management, that is a position we're certainly willing.
That you're looking for?
We're looking to fill, but board members in general, we're still looking to add a few board members to our.
I'm still interested.
Good.
I'm still interested.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can follow up around that.
There you go.
Absolutely.
All right. And I might know a couple of people in the financial department who might be able to help as far as treasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please let me know. Yeah.
I will. No, seriously, that's something you and I can talk about.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, I do.
But yeah, in terms of what you asked how we were doing, we're doing great. We just finished Nubian Nights, which is a couple.
Yes, ran into you.
That was amazing. Yes, you were there. I saw you. We hugged. That was beautiful. It was a beautiful time.
Yes. I'm sorry I missed the first few weeks. I did not realize that it was like every weekend for 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was for 3 weeks. Yep.
I did not realize that. But now what I saw that last night, was that exactly what the entire program, the entire 3 weeks was there was no indoor anything?
Nope. It was all outdoor. Yeah, all outdoor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, that was amazing. We partnered with Jazz Urbane. We partnered with several folks. Maria Finkelmeyer from MF Dynamics, Pamela Hirsch was our projectionist and a videographer. We featured the Jazz Urbane roster of artists.
Yep.
Musicians. We projected on their wall, on their glass facade of the building, and activated their space. We also partnered with Black Market.
I know.
So it was just, and that wasn't even all the partners, and it was just an amazing, wonderful getting together of the community to over arts and culture, which is like literally our goal. So
that's our goal and our mission. Well, I want to tell you, Daniel Callahan, it was great catching up.
Likewise.
And it was great to talk about all the little things that went into that film, and learning more about MassQing, and catching up to see what you're doing, and that little bit that you told me about the district. I'm really excited. We have to do this again.
Yes.
I thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to hang out with me for a minute.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, and hold on, and we will be back.
All right.
Actually, we will be leaving, but we'll be back. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for being with me this afternoon, and my guest, Daniel Callahan, for Artists of Color. And don't worry, we're not gone anywhere. We shall be back in the very near future. Have a great afternoon, everyone.